Hey everyone, it's Warriors NRL Fanatics. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. And today we've got the fans call-in show again for another show. And we'll have a few guests jumping on and we'll add them in soon. So before getting into it, make sure you don't forget to like the live stream, subscribe to the channel if you're a new viewer and haven't done so already. And we'll get in our two guests real soon to jump on. What we're going to do, we're going to chat about the game last week against the Sharks. Go through it, recap it, give our thoughts. Also, go through this week's game against the Storm, which we are looking forward to, this game against the Storm in round 2 as well, and discuss some topics as well. And, have a look at the team list this week as well. So why don't we get in the guests first? We'll get in the guests. Just a reminder, if you guys want to jump on, the link is in the live chat. So feel free to click on the link and I'll add you into the chat. But we've got two guests already lined up, so why don't we add them in? Just give me a second. So we'll go here. We've got Lane and we've got Yanni.
Hey.
So we've got two guests here. It's great to have you guys on. Great to finally get Yanni on and Lane as well. Guys, introduce yourselves. You guys are Warriors fans, massive Warriors fans, of course. Yanni, we've had a bit of a interaction there on the X quite a few times. You've been on one of my the Twitter X thing. You came on, had a chat as well. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Massive Warriors fans, of course. It's great to have you finally on. Great to finally have you on. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Thanks for first of all having us on. I've jumped on actually, so it's been really good. So I've been Warriors fan since the start, since I was a kid in '95. So I wasn't a fan of any other teams beforehand. So I'm a purist, a Warriors purist, massive fan. So so it's always good to chat to fans like yourselves. Makes the week go by quicker. So it's a good countdown to the game.
Awesome.
Yeah. Nice to meet you both. Thank you also, Christian, for extending the invitation to allow fans to come on and share our love, wisdom and observations about the Warriors. Really appreciate the opportunity. My name's Lainey. I've been a supporter since '95 and probably perhaps telling of my age, but I was in high school when my family would sit on the grassy embankment of the old Ericsson Stadium when we were in Auckland. I think it was like big names like Sean Hoppe, Phil Blake, Dean Bell, all those sorts of guys were sort of flying around. A very young Steve Kearney as well. I'm actually based in Sydney now, still supporting the Warriors. It has been a while since I've been to a game over at Ericsson Stadium. Sorry, One Media Stadium, I think it's now called.
Go Media,
even though I'm across the ditch, I'm still very much an avid supporter. And I'm also one of these NRL tragics who has like a NRL podcast as well on the side, where I think I'm the only person that's sort of trumpeting all the achievements of the Warriors. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So what is the podcast you do? It's another NRL podcast. There's so many of them out there. Plenty of great content creators out there do great work, and there's quite a few out there at the moment. So what's the podcast?
So it's for Mojo Sports, and it's the NRL show. So we've got several sports that we, opine over. But I'm on the NRL show, and we get together once a week. It's actually been quite exciting since the round has started, because I don't know whether you guys have felt the same thing, but like I was just sort of champing at the bit for the NRL to get going, because there's just so many news stories about transfers and all this sort of stuff that it's nice to actually get going. We have a very small listenership, but whatever we can to pick up the audience, it's also great. But promising.
Awesome stuff. So, did you go to any of the games in Sydney last year, or did you attend any games? Or
the Warriors only played, I think, at Cronulla, and I was actually in Brisbane at the time. It was just one of these terrible sort of scheduling things. And every time I was in Brisbane, they were here, and every time I was here, they were everywhere else. So, kind of sad. I'm hoping that's going to change this year. I'm actually hoping to get up to Magic Round in Brisbane in May.
Nice.
Oh, that's definitely a must-attend event. I've been to a couple of times now and be there again this year for sure. Like Magic Round, and I went to the Titans game up here on the Gold Coast. Yeah, I'm a Warriors fan on the Gold Coast, so I've been living here for a very long time, so been living here since 2010, and proud and born Aucklander, New Zealander. But living in Australia for quite a while, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back over there actually real soon. Going back there in a few weeks' time, and I'll be there for the Newcastle Knights game. So looking forward to attending that game. Yeah, haven't been back in ages, so can't wait to get amongst the atmosphere of Mount Smart, get amongst the Warriors supporters there, because boy, it looked very good last week. The crowd looked amazing. But guys, let's get into it. Look through the last week's game. We'll have a bit of a recap on it. So last week we took on the Sharks, right? And obviously a lot of people expect us to win. You know, we're at home. You know, we had the fans in front of us. You know, we had the team on paper to do it. We started off the game very well. We got off to a 12-0 lead there. And, look, unfortunately, that second half wasn't great. Our attack just really fell flat. You know, just once Wade Egan came off, I think that was a huge difference. He came off the field and our attack just really suffered. Freddie Lussick coming on. You know, our bench probably didn't make the best impact, to be fair. But what are your guys' thoughts on that, the game against the Sharks? Because it started off pretty promising, but it just didn't quite end well as we would have wanted, because that second half, it just, we get allowed Cronulla back in, a few penalties, a couple of errors. I think that's what got the Sharks back in this game, and they got confidence going to half time. So what are you guys' thoughts here on that whole game?
You mean you touched on most of it? I think you're right there. Yeah. I feel like as soon as Egan was off, you could just see we were a lot slower. The ruck speed slowed down. Like we were really fast in the first 20 minutes, and the Sharks really struggled to keep up with that. As soon as Egan came off, I mean, we also lost our shape as well. Our shape, we just had no, it was just not smooth as we're used to seeing from last season. I think Shans was a massive loss. Because Tana, he's a great young player, but he's inexperienced. He's fast, but at times when he should have passed, he didn't, and it sort of slowed down the attack, and our edges just weren't getting involved enough. That's what we used to seeing, last year. And Roger as well. He was just, we didn't get him involved enough at all. It was a waste, really, having Roger just standing back, and I was thinking that this week maybe Webby might put him in at fullback, and then we could get him versus Paps, but no, not happening. So he's decided to stick to what we did last week. So hopefully they've worked on the attack. I think Sean did really well most of the game. I think he kicked really well. I think we had something like 5 dropouts, right? We won 5 of them, I think it was. But in the last 10 minutes, it was just too predictable. We could have won. We had plenty of ball in the last 10, 15 minutes to win, but it just kept going to Sean, and then just another kick, and it just went flat, and just no help really at all with the ball there. So there's
a lot that you've already covered, Yardi, that I was thinking about going over. I'd say probably that Cronulla try. I think it was around about that Cronulla try, even though it was a soft try, pretty much from that moment, because you could see the confusion from even our players. The fact that it was even awarded, I think, just sort of really changed not only the momentum of the game, but you could see how I think Warriors kind of thought, wait, is this for real? Are we expecting, dodgy officiating in this? Look, the other thing I would probably say is, further to your point about Tane, great, young, still probably a little bit inexperienced. You're right, Chan's not being there, and he's the sort of guy who's quite effective, who's able to really mount that attack. He's also got great feet, and also that footy IQ where he just sort of spots the opportunity and will jump in. Tane, like you say, great player, all credit to him. But I think that sort of knowledge is going to come with obviously more experience in, game time. I also kind of felt like our right edge was a bit off. Usually that's quite a strong side where, we come up with attack. And, further to your point about Roger, I think Roger played such a great, set of preseason matches. I think the Sharks were also ready for him too. They were able to take a lot from that and, found ways to sort of shut him down. He didn't play the most perfect game. There were a few sort of errors there, which perhaps cost us. But of the players there, Luke Metcalf, again, single try, fantastic, like dove out and was able to break away to get that try, which was good. But then the rest of the match, he kind of dropped off. He wasn't really looking for as many opportunities and perhaps not working as well as he could have with Sean to, exploit and capitalize on some of the weaknesses that the Sharks have presented. Probably the only other thing I would say is that I felt Adam Fanua-Blake played a great game. I would probably say he was my standout man of the match. In essence, he made very few errors. He's the guy that you can trust him to take the ball, move forward, get the meters, and sure enough, he was able to turn some of his efforts into points. So, yeah, that's my take on the game.
Yeah, well said there. Yeah, like just full on just to wrap it up for talk about the next game, which is this week. Because we don't really want to spend too much on it. Obviously, we're trying to move on from it. We want to think about this week's game, but just full wrap on it. Obviously, it's disappointing because the game in itself, just the fact that this was a game we probably should have won. In reality, but the Sharks probably really deserved it because their defence, which really kept them in this game. Their gritty defence and the Warriors, had a few opportunities to break them down at going into half time. Probably should have been up by more, in my opinion. I feel like we should have been up by at least 18-0, 20-0 going to half time. And then obviously that try that the Sharks got, they gave them the confidence moving into that second half. And they started the second half the way they, finished the first half. The boys just couldn't find a way through the Sharks in that second half. And that's what really let them down was their attack. Their attack really struggled. I feel like their defence was a little bit a bit of a concern at times in the game, but Webby said in the post game, he was mentioning how the discipline really let them down, and he was spot on with that. It was definitely spot on with the discipline. So anyway, moving on from that game, now, and we had a few injuries coming out of it. Freddie Lussick obviously was coming off the bench, and he played a bit of a role there, but we had an injury to Wade Egan and Kurt Capewell. It was a bit of a worry going into this week with Teamless Tuesday, but surprise, they've been named. They've actually been named to play this week's game. So what are your thoughts on that? Because it was a bit of a shock when I saw their name in the team list for this week's games, especially when you saw Egan. He was struggling, and there's a bit of a question mark whether he will play this week. So, what are your thoughts on Kurt Capewell and the whole team list that they've named this week? It's an unchanged lineup pretty much. So what are your thoughts there on that?
So I've actually heard recently, only in the last sort of hour, that Egan didn't finish training.
Right.
Apparently he couldn't even do any push-ups or anything. So if you can't do push-ups, you're not going to be able to tackle. So, it looks like I think Lussick will probably come in, and then maybe Chanel might come onto the bench, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I would love to see Chanel and hooker. I think he would be really dynamic. His defence is good, and I feel like he could really help with the kicking. Relieve some of that pressure from Sean, because Lussick and Egan, let's face it, they're not. That's they lack in that department. But Egan on his day is the top hooker in the NRL, I believe. Either him or the Storm. What's his name? Harry. So I've heard that he didn't finish training, so maybe he won't play. I don't know. Don't know how true that rumor is, but it's usually a reliable source, so we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, ditto everything that you've said. Harry Grant is the hooker for the Storm, and he is pretty good. I don't know how he's going to shape up against, his opposite for the Warriors. But also, we have a terrible win record over at Amy Park. And I think we actually have a terrible record against Storm. And Storm, I think they're just looking to come out and just kind of prove a lot of the doubters who thought that, last season was a bit of a write-off at the very end and they weren't sort of living up to fan expectations. But, I know this is going to sound mean for Warriors fans, but I have a feeling they're thinking, Warriors so easy. And I'd love for the Warriors to head over to Melbourne and just be, what? We're here to upset your party, just like we did for the Raiders last year. And what they did for the Sharks last year. In terms of the team, I'm really worried about Wade Egan, because if we are relying on him so much like we noticed his absence, during the last game, if he's out for a couple of weeks, because an elbow is pretty important, are we going to be able to formulate all of our attack as well as we should be at this early part of the round, or whether Webster's going to be looking to sort of try several different players at that position, which is probably going to sort of, I think we won't make as much progress as I think we were hoping to as a round sort of develop, which is a bit of a shame. But I trust Webster to do the right thing and make the right decisions as well as put someone in. In terms of Cape Wow, I'm also thinking he might be out for a bit. I don't know. Have your sources, Yanni, told you about Cape Wow?
Nothing about Cape Wow. I think as far as they're concerned, he finished training, so nothing about him. So it's just at the moment, it's just Egan that hasn't finished training. So, but you're right, it could be a late withdrawal for him too, and then that leaves us, really short on some forwards, and with no Murata Nukore, who's a massive loss as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a worry. But mind you, they have Naz out, who normally plays really well against us. I don't know if you guys remember the game last year. He actually should have sent off from what he did to Egan, but he didn't. So he was lucky to even stay on the field. But when he did stay on, he just killed us completely. But he's not playing this week, so it's a bit of a relief. But I do worry about our edges, because their edges are really good. Ours need to step up completely, because last week just wasn't good enough. It's not going to stand against Melbourne. Melbourne were on fire last week, I thought. Yes, it was a low-scoring game, but they showed a lot of grit. I mean, they beat the reigning premiers, and they're at home again. And yeah, it's going to be tough for us. And yeah, with no Egan, I really worry. And it's like we're already missing Shans as well. So they better have worked on their attack. That's all I'll have to say.
Yeah. And obviously, there's a bit of seeing that the reserves, extended reserves, that Chanel has been named in the reserves there with Jazz Savanga as well, named in the reserves, as well as Tamari Martin. So there's a bit of a chance there that Chanel may come back into the side, whether he be on the bench or starting. I think it'd be on the bench. I think they won't start him. They'll probably put Freddie Lussick there. So what are you guys' thoughts there? Because Chanel and Tamari Martin were very strong in that cup side last week. Yanni, you probably would have watched it, because here in Australia we didn't get it live streamed or televised.
I watched the second half. I missed the first half, but I watched the second half. But as you know, I'm a big TMM enthusiast, and I thought he played really well. I thought his passing was on. His passing was always on. And I was impressed with Chanel as well, only because we didn't really get to see much of Chanel in the trials. I don't think we didn't really get to see much of him, but I actually thought they both did really well. I mean, it's always, if you're a good player, you're going to stand out in New South Wales Cup, right? So whether that transitions into first grade, I don't know. We'll see. Yes. But it's handy having those two as backup. I mean, not many other NRL clubs can say that they've got depth in their halves, and even we've got good fullback depth as well. So not many NRL clubs can say they have that either. So I don't know. But it's like I said, my main concern is hooker. Lussick, I don't quite think he's up to it. And against Melbourne, I don't know. Melbourne's obviously a tough team for us to go and play every year. It is over there. It's just one of those games that I mean, yes, you look forward to Anzac Day. Luckily, it's not Anzac Day this time, so there's that less pressure maybe as well. I feel like on Anzac Day, it just adds that added pressure onto the boys. I feel. So I guess it's it's round two. Like let's try to be positive, I guess. But just with Egan, I do worry. That's my biggest concern, is not having Egan on the field there.
Yeah, good point about having that depth in the halves as well. And like I think we also forget about RTS and his sort of versatile background in which they would probably step in. Probably my only concern, with this rich selection that we've got in terms of depth, is that Webster again will be sort of chopping and changing to try and move players around it, as like time goes on. And like even though that they've been obviously elevated up and selected for the team here on the extended squad, it comes down to I feel like the top grade exposure and experience time. They didn't get as much last season, and preseason was fantastic to get them out there and have a run. But I'm just wondering, obviously big game, there's a bit of expectation, and obviously things have changed a little bit in order for them to have to step up and put their boots on for this. I just hope that they're able to front up and put on, a good game. And again, it comes with that, I guess, that concern that sometimes when people feel like, oh, someone else has got this, others kind of relax. And I'm probably looking back a little bit here, but I kind of felt that in the 2 preseason games in which Roger was playing, because I felt like a few people were like, oh, Roger, you're fantastic. Oh, well, you're doing so well. And so much, they kind of feel that they can take a step back. I doubt that's what they're thinking, but I just hope that doesn't creep into their minds when we're on the field. But I just certainly hope Webster's able to, get them cohesively working, and especially giving them enough run time together, when they're in Melbourne, in their sort of preparation, so that they get that confidence and they don't get intimidated by the Storm, because Storm can be quite an intimidating side, and that crowd is obviously not going to help with any confidence.
Hopefully we have a lot of our fans going. I mean, I know a lot of Kiwis live in Melbourne, so we traditionally do get a big crowd over there. So, but other things, just talking about what you want us to improve on, I do hope that Webster himself took some accountability. I feel like his rotation was off. Yep. I think he made some bad decisions. For example, having AFB and Barnett off at the same time was a mistake. I mean, I don't think you should have those two off at the same time ever, not voluntarily anyway. I understand injuries happen in conditions, but they were off at the same time, and that's when the momentum shifted for me. Obviously, Egan coming off, but then when those two were off as well, I noticed Sharks were able to get up the field a lot easier. So, having those two off, I think that's a Webster's error there, and I hope that he's also taken some accountability and not just I feel like it's all been blamed on the boys, and I don't think that's fair. I think Webster's also made some strain. I thought it was very uncharacteristic of him to make some of those, because normally he's quite good with his rotation, but I felt like it was there was some funny decisions there for me.
I was going to say, the Warriors have already had some losses and some changes much more in their squad than perhaps the Sharks did. So the Sharks are sort of coming off a team that's, sort of played and lost together for most of last year. I mean, we've lost Josh Curran, and, I'm still struggling to see, him, wearing a different team's uniform. But, he was always that player that, I think Webb's always sort of brought him in, and he was quite impactful at certain moments to really just sort of, really carry the ball, spear through any of the defense with his attack. And I think that was maybe what is the adjustment that the Warriors are still trying to make to their game. But I think also Webb's sort of feeling that loss too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Marata will help when he comes back, because if he's on the bench, I'm guessing he will start off the bench. He'll be an impact player. He's going to be huge. I was so impressed with him in our second trial, against the Dragons. I thought he was our best player. So I was really gutted to hear he wasn't playing last week, because he's huge. He'll have a big season, I think. So once he comes back, I think we'll see the bit of impact from the bench, I feel. But like I said, Webster just tweak a little bit, tweak that a little bit, and it'll be a lot better this week than what we were. So looking forward to it.
So you guys said it well there, actually, really well said with some of your points you guys made. So I do feel like, you only said there with the bench rotation, I felt like against the Sharks, I did feel like it wasn't great what Webster did with the bench, and generally speaking, not often you question Webby's selections, but I had to question that the way he used his bench last week against the Sharks especially, and this week against Melbourne, the bench are going to have to provide a bit more impact for me. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? I feel like the bench needs to provide a bit more. Like I know Freddie Lussick came on at the tough time, really. Freddie Lussick to come and play a lot of longer minutes. We're unfortunate with Wade Egan coming off, but I feel like some of the others are going to have to step up as well. The likes of Bunty, as well. Dylan Walker. I feel like there's a few others that probably need to maybe have a huge game for this one. So, what are you guys' thoughts there?
Well, Walker was pretty good, actually, last week.
Yep.
Bunty did really well in the trials, actually. I was really impressed with him in the trials.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he didn't get enough minutes for me for this last game.
I agree.
More minutes, but again, that's a Webster thing, isn't it? So, but our bench definitely does need to step up. I think there, from what the team lists that I looked at when I was looking at the bench, I think we're pretty on par, to be honest. I think their bench and our bench yeah, not. I don't feel. I thought the Sharks bench looked better than our bench last week, but
they did.
more 50-50. But now that I'm hearing that Egan might not play, then that means that Lussick will move into 9, and then we'll have Chanel and. Chanel, I'm not sure if he's a big impact player, but at least he can come in for Lussick. And so, I do feel like our bench will probably be better this week. And that just depends all on what Webster's plan is for them, And you never know, things happen throughout the game, concussions, and then you have to make quick changes. And we had Roger at the back at one point. So, our bench, I'm feeling a little bit better about it this week, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. There's not much more I can add to that, really. I mean, Chanel, he played no football last year, really? So I think he's still finding his feet.
What was he actually doing? What was he doing with his year? Was he at home? Was he travelling?
Travelling, I heard.
Travelling, from what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. Good on him.
So I think his confidence is just going to come to him soon. And I always worry about someone like TMM as well, because he's got all those sort of past health issues. I'm always conscious that stuff like that can sort of come back again. But great for him to have the chance to go out here and play, and also great for Webster to welcome them back into the fold as well.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really nice of the club to get Roger and Chanel back. I feel like Chanel's a natural football player, and I think he's doing what he's meant to be doing. So yeah, I'm obviously upset about Egan possibly not playing, but it will be good to see what Chanel can do if he's going to be coming off the bench, like I suspect. So yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. Can't wait.
Yep. So we got JD in the chat here saying, hey guys, saying hey, hello to JD in the live chat there. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, so just want to go back to RTS and last week's game against the Sharks. What do you reckon? We're going into this game. Do you feel like you'd be better, more equipped this week? Because I felt like he didn't have a lot of ball to roam with. What are you guys' thoughts here? Because we know RTS, he's a professional and he'll get used to the position. It probably will take a bit of time to get used to that position. I know he played one of the trials, but the trials is a different sort of a different sort of game altogether. But what are you guys' thoughts here? Because do you feel like RTS maybe could have felt like he maybe could have been a bit more involved in the game, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, so he was. It was not really all his fault either. I feel like because the attack was so flat, we weren't getting service out to our edges, so it's not all his fault. But I feel like in the trials, he definitely injected himself a lot more than what he did versus the Sharks. But I don't know if that was maybe a tactic, like stay back and stay there and help out the others on the wing. So I don't know if that was a tactical thing or not. I don't know. But I would like to see him get a bit more involved, kind of like how Manu for the Roosters, what he does, drifts in and out, and because Roger's got the ability to do so. So he's going to have to step up. But what Lane touched on as well, that bringing in someone like Roger does worry me a little bit with the other players around, thinking that they don't have to do as much with him being there. But I think the Sharks did shut him down pretty well, though. They shut down the whole team pretty well because we had nothing to really offer. So it was like we did the job for them, a little bit, because we just had nothing to offer. But yeah, Roger, I don't know if he's going to be doing that same thing this week or not. So I don't know what else I can really say about Roger. But he felt like wasted on last week for me. But I hope we get more service to him this week.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of felt as though, much the point that the Sharks were kind of prepared to shut him down. He still performed pretty well, right? He had I'm just looking at the stats here, 5 tackle breaks, quick play of the ball, 2 dummy half runs. And, he still has good work in terms of defense. All of his tackles were effective. So it's great that we have a great, defensive and offensive player like we do in him. I also think about sort of comments that other players have spoken about with someone like Roger, because they say because he's at that level, they all feel like they have to, elevate and meet him at his level too. So, they've had obviously the preseason matches to work it out. And now that they see what he's like, under, I guess, under attack, or under a bit of a challenge in a round one game. Look, I'm expecting that by round two, like this coming match, Roger will probably be, I think, a little bit more confident in the way he works with the rest of the team, and I think the rest of the team may actually work better with him. Obviously, it's unfortunate that we've got these changes in the lineup, due to these injuries, but someone like Roger, and I guess we also talked about this a lot, he is a professional, like you say, and I think he will adapt and flex to the situation, and he'll just make it work. He just gets it and does what needs to be done. And I don't think he's the sort of person, like, even when you see him off the ball, you don't see him like complaining to other players, telling them what they should be doing. He's quite aware of what his job is. And I think he's quite subtle in his leadership there as well, to get the others to do what they should be doing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, well said there. Yeah, so look, I mean, RTS, there's probably coming to this year, there's probably more pressure than he's ever had, since he joined the Warriors. Since he had that captaincy role, and there was a lot of pressure on him back in the day when the Warriors, were struggling for, the performances, being away, in Australia, and obviously had all that pressure and a few coaching changes. It was a mess really at the time, but he's come back into this team. There's less pressure on him. He's got the players around him. He's there being a leader. That's some of these young players get an opportunity to play with RTS. It must be a real buzz for those guys. So yeah, it's great. Just having RTS back is just great in itself. Having him back in this team. So just on the game now. What do you got? What do you reckon? Like a player that should needs to have a big game. Like, who you reckon is like the most important player in regards to this game on Saturday night? Because obviously we'll say the whole team, but there must be a key player for you guys that is gonna make a big step up to help this team get over the line against the Melbourne Storm. Who do you guys reckon?
All of them, like really. Metcalf
Yeah.
needs to step up because we can't be relying on Sean all the time, So Metcalf as well, but Sean as well in the last 10 minutes did a couple of bizarre things, I thought too. But again, that was because probably nothing was working, so he was just trying something. And and then again, it's like when you get to that stage, you don't deserve to win when you're just throwing Hail Marys around, So, but basically the whole team, really. I mean, is it Tane or Tane? I thought it was Tane, but is it Tane?
Tane, yeah.
Tane, yeah. For some reason I thought it was Tane.
I got it wrong before too. Yeah, I got it wrong a few times. So right. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to get them right. So yeah, he does too. I think I feel a bit bad for him because he is young, and I don't want him to feel like there is some pressure there on him. But I thought the forwards performed as well as they could. I can't really fault the forwards too much. I think it was the backs that, and the edges as well. I feel like they were a bit off too, so they probably do need to. And sorry, I see there's someone called Jackson Ford here. Yeah, he needs a good game because that was so. I mean, I've never seen something so bad since when was Manu Vadavai's? What game was it? The Eels dropped like 6 balls or something. Like he needs to. I mean, I wasn't. Some people were saying he was going to be dropped. I knew Webby wouldn't drop him. Webby's not the kind of guy that would just drop Jackson like that. So yeah, he's I think he's on notice. Hi, Jackson Ford. I see you commenting there.
I reckon the biggest pressure. I think the biggest pressure, and probably my expectation of the player that needs to step up for this game, is definitely Tane Tuolpiki, because I mean, look, he has some big boots to fill, but also like his opposite is Ryan Papenhuyzen. Aren't we all going to be comparing him to how Paps performs on the day? And and again, how he performs will always be, compared to what Papenhuyzen does, post game, whether we win or lose. And the other person that I hate to say this, but Sean Johnson, much like what you said, I have big expectations for an improvement in the kicking game. I usually can't fault his vision, but again, he is in a very integral role there, and part of his role is to, ensure that he works well with Luke. So again, it does come down to the spine that I'm quite worried about. Also in defence, might I just add, there were moments where I saw Tane, last week, and I was like, well, why weren't you there? Why weren't you covering the line?
Yeah.
What were you doing down that end and not defending, to prevent that from happening? So I think that's why my expectations are a little bit higher on his performance to improve this week.
Yeah, he needs to improve on his positioning for sure. I guess it's all about reading the game. He needs to read the game better, but that's going to come with experience. And yeah, that's what I was kind of just Pappenhausen. Yeah, I was thinking this week how cool it would be to have Roger versus Pappenhausen, but no, I didn't get my wish.
Yeah.
So never mind.
That's strange.
Yeah, well,
Nick Meaney's still a formidable opposite, though, right?
Yes,
good
exactly.
player. Very good player.
He's good. Yeah, he's improved a lot. Yeah, Nick Meaney for sure. He had a really good season last year. So yeah, that'll still be an interesting matchup. Yeah, like we touched on before. Hopefully Roger gets more involved. Yeah, his stats were good last week, but it'll be good to see some of the footwork and yeah, I would love to see him go for a try. I think it would be great.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So speaking of the game, what are you predicting? Like prediction, what do you reckon the margin will be? Obviously, backing the boys in here, backing the Warriors, obviously.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon? Like a score or a prediction or margin? What do you think?
I don't know. My tips, I always back the boys. That's probably what I do really poor on my competitions. But last year I did really well because we won most of our games, so that's okay.
Oh.
I'm still going to go Waz, and I'm going to probably say maybe by 10. I think maybe we might come back at the second half.
Right.
I reckon it's going to be close because you know how it gets. I don't know if you remember, but like last year, remember how the Warriors would be just sort of in the lead, and then suddenly the opposing team is just creeping up to close that margin, which just makes us all feel a little bit nervous. But I think it was probably the Sharks game that the first one in which they faced up against the Sharks over at Shark Park, in which they were behind and then they came back and took the lead and won the game. I think the differential was 2 points. So with something like this, I think it's going to be like 2 or 4 points. I think it's going to come down to kicking or a penalty that's going to be.
What's the weather supposed to be like? Does anyone know?
It's fine. It's supposed to be fine.
Oh.
Okay, cool.
Right. Well, that would suit us because we play well in the dry weather. So that's all last year. We struggled in the wet, a couple of games where we just couldn't score. Yeah.
Because it started raining, remember?
That Sharks game, that was the exception there. But
well, usually the Warriors don't travel well, but there were a few away games that they did all right last year. So we're hoping that it's the same this time round. Yeah,
with a good crowd. If we get a good crowd in to shut those Melbourne Victorians up, it'll be great. Yeah, I think was it the game last year where we I could hear Warriors fans more than I could hear Melbourne fans. I'm no offense, but I think Melbourne fans just aren't loud in general. I feel like they're one of the quietest out of all of them, which is funny to me because we're one of the most successful clubs. Like, why are you sitting there like it's a library? I don't know, no offense if you're listening. But so I feel like we just always overpower them in those games. I mean, Titans games, Christian, you must have been to a lot of Titans Warriors game. We tend to so as long as if we get a good crowd, we always have a good chance. So
yeah, well, the support here in Australia last year was just incredible. Like the game on the Gold Coast, the support, getting off the train, getting off the bus, there was just Warriors supporters everywhere. It was like being back home in Auckland, really. It was like being back home in Auckland, New Zealand, and the noise in the game. All you hear was Warriors. There was no, the Titans fans. It was. The Warriors support was everywhere, and shout out to Richie Morgan, who runs the Warrior Nation there in Sydney. He does a great job with all the meetups and all the events he does in Australia. And yeah, man, that game in Sydney against the Parramatta Eels, I remember that all too well. How loud the Warriors support there was in that game as well. So there's no lack of support for the boys here in Australia, especially. There's a lot of Kiwis here, so they'll be the same this year going to all the games, Sydney and Melbourne, Queensland. There'll be a lot of support. So, yeah, just reading this comment here. So Greg reckons here that the Warriors will win 24, Melbourne 17. And now, yeah, he's tuning in from Taranaki, the Naki. Good to see there. But I think that pretty much, regards to the Warriors, wraps it up. But there is a bit of news that actually broke today. I don't know if you guys heard this. The Warriors, or the off contracts in Georgia Illawarra Dragonsford and Francis Molo is yet to sign a new contract for the Dragons next season. And apparently the club's interested in the Dragonsford there is the New Zealand Warriors. So what do you guys reckon on this one? Well, what are your thoughts on Francis Molo coming to the Warriors in 2025?
This is the first I've actually heard. I mean, I hope we're not going to pay overs. I mean, we've got Zion, I think, needs a go. He's showed that he can be, he can be a good player. So it always doesn't hurt to have backup, I guess. But I mean, he's all right. I don't think he's that great, but he's all right. He's not bad. He's not a bad player, but just depends, I guess, how much we're gonna offer him and how much cap space that's going to take up. So I don't know, because I would love to bring Zion in at some point.
Yeah, that's not for an immediate swap. That's obviously for the new season.
Yeah, it's for 2025. So it's reported by, I think it was one of the Sydney papers, but Zero Tackle was also reported as well. So apparently the Warriors are one of the clubs interested in signing him for 2025.
I wonder what the Dragons' plan is then. Have they got someone else coming in?
Flanagan has got all sorts of plans to reshape and reorganize that team since he's come on. They've also got a few players that are looking to exit out. Obviously they're trying to, I think, work through salary cap release. But just sort of last I heard was that Flanagan was looking to try and get Jordan Petaia over from the Queensland Reds and Rugby Union to come over and play for them.
Because everybody keeps rejecting them, so now he's got to go to a different sport.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I've not heard that, so I'll have a look later. But that's interesting. I don't know. I feel like maybe we could still do better, but
I'm not too sure on this one really. Obviously AFB is the biggest blow going into next year. Not having him, it's a bit gutting to not see him come into the Warriors next season. So. We see what impact Adam Blake has. We saw that in that first game against the Sharks. We saw that last year. He was one of up there with Payne Haas as the best prop in the game, won the Dalian prop of the year. So, if people were doubting his, commitment to the Warriors this year, go and look at that first game because his commitment's still there. So, he's definitely committed to the jersey for sure for the rest of this year. So. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Adam Blake, he had a great year last year, but this year, there's a bit of concern maybe that he may not be committed to the jersey for the rest of the year. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I did think about that at one point, but I don't think so. He's a professional. Yeah. We saw it on Friday. He was the best player, and I was surprised he. Have you guys seen the Dalian board? Do you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. Like Hines, I thought that there were Warriors players and Sharks players that played better than him. And how did he? Yeah, because since last year when Sean got shafted, I've gone off it completely. But AFB, I think he'll. Yeah, it's good that we got him still for this year because he was, when it was first announced, it was going to be an immediate release. And we ended up somehow getting him to stay for this season. So. I know there was a rumor last week or the week before that maybe he would go straight to the Sharks at some point this year, but I don't think so. I hope not, but can't see that happening. If we're playing well and everything's going okay, and I don't know what his situation is. I think I've heard that he's got some family that's not well or something. So I don't know how the club's actually going to manage that, if he's going over there and staying there, or do you remember when Kieran Foran was with us at one point and he was kind of traveling back and forth? So I was a bit worried about that happening again because that didn't work out very well, did it? He was constantly getting injured and he hardly played for us. He was just also flying back and forth. So I don't know, but I think his commitment will be there. I don't think that we need to question his commitment. I think he'll.
Agree. I think I think AFB is going to hang around and play great again. In fact, I have a feeling he's going to be trying to get, the Dally M, obviously, again.
Yeah.
And also just sort of cementing his value to his new club, in the sense that he'd be in a position to renegotiate, obviously, as the contract goes on. So, I think he's a professional, like you say.
It doesn't make sense to play like poorly, does it? Like, just because you're leaving this club, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you want to play bad and then go into a new club and come off a bad season because you didn't put enough effort? Or it's just I can't see why anyone would do that.
Yeah, and I think of like players like Herbie Farnworth when he was at the Broncos. Even after he signed for the Dolphins, he still played an awesome, skill level of football right until the grand final. So
he's not leaving because he's got bad blood with the club. I think he's said like he loves the club and the boys, and they all love each other, and they've all got a good thing going on. So it's not like there's some bad blood there where he would not feel like he needed to commit. So it's a family thing. So it's I don't think we need to worry too much.
I'd be interested to see how the Warriors front up to the Sharks next year when he's on the other side, though.
I wonder if you'll get a few boos from the Warriors supporters.
Well, there'll be a few for sure.
Yeah. There would be. Yeah, you know how passionate our fans are. Really passionate supporters. So, definitely. But have you both got any like questions you'd like to ask me? Like something you've got off your your chest that you want to give my thoughts on, or has got any questions?
Question. Do you guys think? So I've been quite hopeful of this, and I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic, but in my top 8, I've actually got at number 2 the Warriors at the end of the season. In fact, I think that they'll get to the grand final, and I actually think they'll be there with the Broncos. Look, that's just me with obviously rose-colored lenses on, but asking you guys, what do you think, and where do you sort of feel that the Warriors will finish at the end of the season?
I actually don't normally do I know when everyone puts up on their Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, I still call it Twitter. Everyone always does their ladder, their prediction. I never do it. I always do a joke one or something, like I'll put not Warriors at the bottom for the wooden spoon or something like that. But I think you're well and within your right. I think that we'll finish second. I still picked the Broncos to win the whole thing. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud because I really can't stand the Broncos. But I think they will win it. But I think we'll be up there too. I can't see why not. As long as injuries. I mean, I think we managed our injuries pretty well. I think we were one of the we had one of the worst injury runs last year, actually, which was quite surprising to everybody. Managed pretty well, I think. But I guess that shows you the depth that we have. So I think top 4 for sure. For me, I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, for me, I mean, I think it's a fair prediction. I think it is. But obviously, look, I'd love for us to make the top 4 again. I do feel like there's a couple of other teams that probably may get a little bit more of an edge over us this year on that ladder. So obviously, Hearts saying top 4, but I've got them like around 5th. That's just me being a bit more realistic than biased, from a bias point of view. Obviously, I'm going top 4. I'd love to just win the premiership. But I think we'll be finishing around 5th. That's where I've got us in my original predictions, and that's where I have us. So, look, I mean, 5th wouldn't be too bad. You'd probably prefer top 4 because I feel like top 4, you're more of a chance of winning the grand final. You're more of a chance of winning the premiership. So, top 4 is a huge thing for the Warriors because last year they made the top 4 and it was important, because they got a second chance because they lost. They lost that finals first week against Penrith, and obviously we know how much of a struggle was not having SJ there. It was a huge blow not having him there in that game. And then obviously he was injured for the majority of the final series. He was playing with an injury. So, for sure. Like, I feel like we'll finish 5th, but hopefully top 4, hopefully in that grand final. Fingers crossed. But that's where I got them this year. So just having a look at the comment here. So JD is asking, do you guys have any social media? Drop a follow, love your insights. So why don't you guys just tell JD tell everyone here where they can find you for some insights, thoughts.
Well, I use X. I don't know if JD, if you use X, but I use X. I don't really talk about Warriors and stuff on my Facebook or Instagram. That's just really private family stuff. I've got my kids on there, so I use X though. My can we write on here or no? We can't write on here.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I've only used this once before.
Yep.
My name is, because I've got Yarny there. Delightful Yarn is my name on X. Delightful Yarn. Yeah. So if you're on there, feel free. Lane, I don't know if you're on there or not, but yeah, feel free to follow as well.
I think I'm like far too active on X, unfortunately, but yeah, so I'm at Arrowsmith, ARROWSMITH _LA on X/Twitter, and then on Instagram, you can pretty much find me. I can't even remember what my name is, but it's just Arrow _LAINE. You'll find me on Instagram. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So that's where you can follow them. So yeah, go and check them out. I'm sure they'll have a few insights there, thoughts on the Wars, their biased views on the Warriors. So yeah, I'm going to check them out. So just on to the games now. I actually want to talk about the footy this weekend, the NRL round 2. Besides the Warriors, of course, we want to get your thoughts on the games this week. I know it's been a rough patch for people tipping last week, especially me myself. Yeah. I really struggled to tip majority of those games, especially.
What did you get? What was your score in the end?
I think I got 3 or 4 right.
Yeah, I got 1. So
yeah, I got 1 too. No, I think I had my hopes held that maybe the Dolphins would change it to get me more than 1. But
I did that. I changed it to the Dolphins because I thought I'm doing so terribly. I'm going to change my one from the Cowboys to the Dolphins, and then I knew. But as soon as I did it, I was like, "This is going to be stupid." But oh well, I'm already doing crap, so I might as well just carry on.
Yeah, so we'll get your tips before we see if we can get a few other people on the show. Give some other people opportunity. For those of you who want to jump on, I'll put the link there in the chat. So if you want to jump on, just click the link. And I know some people are a little bit shy, so if you are a bit shy, you don't even need to have your video on, just have your audio on and just come on and have a chat like this. So it's just you don't need to be an expert. You can just come on, have a chat, talk about the Warriors, talk about the NRL in general. So yeah, we'll get into you guys' tips here. So thoughts here. So tomorrow night got the Brisbane Broncos taking on the Rabbitohs, and Yarny, obviously you're tipping the Broncos to do very well this year. They lost their first game down there in Vegas, but they're back at home in Brisbane to take on the Rabbitohs, who also lost in Vegas as well. Yarny, what are your prediction here? What do you reckon? Who's going to win?
Brisbane at home. Yeah. Rabbitohs looked really terrible. I thought Broncos were really off in their game, but I don't think they were as bad as what Souths were. So, Brisbane at home should be too good for them, I think.
Yep. And you, Laney? Is it Laney or?
It's Laney. Yeah, no, I've got the same. Right. Yeah. So the reason why I'm saying Broncos is because, they didn't have to travel as far as the Rabbitohs. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of team prep, in Brisbane, they know their grounds, and also, look, it's Adam Reynolds' old team. I know he just gets a bit of a kick out of trying to beat them each time. But yeah, both returning from the US, so they've probably had the same amount of time in the air. Look, I don't actually know whether the Souths team came to Sydney and then went up to Brisbane. I'd say they would have arrived straight up there. But I'm calling Broncos for this. And I'm calling a pretty decent margin of around about maybe 6, only because, one, I'm really excited to see what Latrell Mitchell looks like going up against. His name's just escaped me. I wanted to see the 2 fullbacks take it on because I think Walsh, because we've been denied that chance all of last year. Latrell was sick or injured, and then of course Origin we never got it. So I'm keen to see what those 2 look like on the field together.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got the Broncos as well. I've got them winning this one. I think they'll be too strong for the Bunnies there, but I reckon it won't be as big of a score as a lot of people expecting. I feel like this might be a 1-12 margin. So I'll go with the Bronx though, 1-12. I think they'll get up in front of the home fans at Suncorp. We know their record there is pretty good last year, and they'll win really. I think they'll be too good for the Rabbits. The other game the other game on Friday. So you got 2 games on Friday night, actually. But the first game to kickstart Friday night footy is the Sharks. Cronulla Sharks take on the Bulldogs. Down at PointsBet Stadium in Sydney. Now, the Sharks obviously beating our boys last week, being the Warriors there. Look, I expect the Sharks to win this one. I reckon they'll be too strong. So, yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so too, for sure. Yeah, probably by at least 12, I think.
12.
I don't think Dogs very good last week. They didn't impress me at all, and I can't see them. I think the Sharks will actually, I think they'll beat them quite comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. They seem to have their players and their plays, all set compared to the Bulldogs. So I'm the same, expecting the Sharks to take this out. So, 12 sounds about right, actually.
I thought the Dogs were the least impressive team for me and the Dolphins, but I expected more from the Dogs. I just expected Ciraldo to do something with them. But, I mean, it's one game. I guess we shouldn't judge too hard right now. Like, we'll see how they do by round 5. I guess we'll know more. But they didn't impress me at all. Their halves are just not strong enough. And if you're going to win a comp, if you're going to be in the top 8, you have to have some good halves. And for me, that's where they're lacking big time.
New captain as well at the Bulldogs. Don't forget, you've got Stephen Crichton, a few new players there.
Yeah. Curran, Curran's Curran. I thought he came off the bench, didn't he? So I thought he good impact. I mean, that was always going to happen, but unfortunately, he's just not surrounded by the quality players this year. So not his fault, but yeah.
And also, I think Bulldogs are Josh Adokar is also injured, so he's. I know they depend on him a lot to be the guy who runs down the wing to score tries, but I don't think that's going to help them this time around.
Apparently, he's only missing 1 or 2 games at most. They were thinking at first he might miss like half the season, but they've come out this week and said that it's only possibly just 1 or 2 games. So that's good.
Was that Gus Gould that said that though? Because I know he likes to control the narrative.
I don't remember who it was. Sorry, I just read it on some article. I don't know who wrote it or who said it, but
Yeah. And this game here, Penrith Panthers taking on the Parramatta Eagles. I think this one's probably one of the games of the round, in my opinion. I reckon this will be a real good one. Penrith, obviously, going down to Melbourne there last week, been kept scoreless, which was very unusual to see Penrith not score a point, not score a try in the game. And Melbourne obviously defended very well. And obviously Penrith, them coming back from the UK from the World Club Challenge, coming off that bit of a controversial loss there. A lot of people say it's controversial. I'd say, look, there were some calls that probably weren't great, but to be honest, I think Penrith had their opportunities in that game to win. But Penrith don't want to go 0-2 to start the season. What do you reckon here? Parramatta, I reckon Parramatta were very impressive, albeit against the Bulldogs at home last week. Moses apparently was, and there was some concerns around Moses and an injury last week. But what are your thoughts here? Like, do you think Penrith win, or do you think it's certainly Penrith win?
Is it in Penrith? Is that where it is?
It's in Penrith. Yeah.
I don't know. My head tells me that Penrith will bounce back from last week. I feel like so I don't know. I think it'll be a close one, but I'm actually picking Penrith for this one. Yeah.
I'm actually going Eels for this because, and this is what I was talking about the other night, is that Eels seem to be the the Achilles tendon of the Panthers side, because we think about I think a couple of years ago when Panthers had like a string of wins in a row, and it was actually the Eels that was the only team to sort of destroy that winning streak. And then I had a look also at the stats, but last year they beat them twice. I think it was a field goal in one, and then it was only a few points in another. So it just feels like the Eels know how to beat the Panthers. I guess the only sort of difference here is that it's in front of their home crowd. But, Eels, they seem to have the formula down pat. And I think they know how to really unsettle a lot of those attacking players. That they are missing the Steve Crichton, James Salmon, those guys who were sort of quite instrumental in helping to really sort of drive a lot of that attack for the Panthers. So I think they're still working it out. Hence why I'm going for the Eels. Couldn't give you a margin though.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I've gone Penrith here, but look, I mean, I can't count out Para. I think Parramatta are definitely a good chance to win this one. But yeah, I saw Dylan Brown. He was good last week. Moses ran the ship there, and they had some great, some standout players, especially for that game. So yeah, I'll go Penrith here, 1-12. Saturday, so you got the Canberra Raiders take on the West Tigers here. Raiders, real shock beating Newcastle down in Newcastle first. Down, a lot of people weren't expecting that, I think, except Raiders fans. What do you reckon here? The Raiders and the Tigers. The Tigers under Benji Marshall. A new era for the Tigers. So, yeah, what do you reckon?
I don't know. It's hard to say because the Tigers didn't play last week, so it's a bit like, the Raiders. I thought that the Knights reminded me of the Warriors a bit. Like they got enough ball, but just couldn't do anything with it. So I think the Knights will definitely improve on last week. Sorry, we're talking about the Raiders, aren't we? Sorry, Raiders. I think the Raiders will win. Actually, probably the Raiders. Yeah, I don't know about the Tigers.
Look,
tipping's terrible, so who knows?
Well, it makes sense that the Raiders would win, right? Because it's at home. Yeah. The Tigers had the bye last week, so they're a little bit slow. Usually teams are coming off the bye. But I mean, like I had a look at the team list, and like Benji's listed a whole bunch of different members to what I thought he would have fielded. So I mean, like he's probably falling into the same trap that happened last year. Like for the first 6 or 7 rounds, he just kept changing. Not him, but obviously the previous coach kept changing players around to try and work out where they go. I think they might have some of those teething issues, and I expect Raiders to win here.
Yeah. Raiders will win. I think they'll be too strong for the Tigers. I think the Tigers will have a few games to gel. Like the Warriors. The new coach, and I think it's going to take a bit of time for them to get going, get some wins. So, yeah, look, Raiders too strong, I think. But this game, actually, the Cowboys and Newcastle Knights. Cowboys up there in Townsville, they were very strong against the Dolphins last week down at Suncorp. Knights disappointing, really disappointing, the Knights. Look, I feel like the Cowboys will be too strong at home, but the Knights will be looking to bounce back for sure. So, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so exactly what you just said, for sure. I think the Knights will do better than last week for sure, but I'm just going to pick the Cowboys only because Cowboys at home, I think behind with their crowd, play really well for them. I think it'll be close, so maybe only 6 points in it, maybe.
Yeah, agree. I think it's going to be a smaller margin than what the Cowboys had put on last week. Probably definitely because of at home. Also, it's quite warm up in Townsville. When you think about the humidity, and I don't think the Knights players are actually used to that, and I tend to find that whenever they go north, they do struggle. So I'm favouring the Cowboys for this, but definitely a smaller margin than last weekend.
Yeah.
Yep, and obviously the Warriors, we've already talked about that game, so we've all picked the Warriors win. The Sunday games, so you got 2 games. Sunday got the Seagulls and Roosters, Manly Seagulls and Sydney Roosters. Now this game has been played at Brookvale Oval, as they now call it, 4 Pines Park, whatever. Brookvale for me, always bring Brookvale. I've actually tipped an upset. I've gone with Manly. I feel like Manly could actually get the result here over the Roosters. A lot of people tipping the Roosters, and they're expected to win, but I feel like Manly were really impressive in their game in Las Vegas. What do you reckon here? Do you think it'd be a Roosters win, or are you going with Manly? What do you think?
This is the one game that I couldn't pick someone. I was like, oh, which one? Because you could see Manly winning it because they're at home, and that ground of theirs, I mean, it's disgusting. It's atrocious, and no one likes playing. Other teams, they say they don't like going there and playing there. It's just their home ground, and it's like this, and they're playing really well. Like you said, last week they played really well. Roosters, though, I thought they were really impressive. I think Tedesco has something to prove this year, doesn't he? I feel like he's one of those players that's going to be under the microscope. But for this game, I think I'm going to have to go Manly, just because they're at home, I guess. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a close one.
Yeah, I'm actually going Roosters for this. They were quite impressive in Las Vegas. And like when I think about how Manly performed against the Rabbitohs, it's like, well, were Manly really good, or was South just not that good? You know what I mean? Like that's what I couldn't really get the measure of. But they look really impressive in Vegas. They also look really confident as a side. Like even though they're not going to have Spencer Lemieux playing on the side, they've certainly got the depth to be able to cover him as a player over the next 8 weeks. I also felt like the Roosters have actually started to adapt a little bit better to having Sam Walker's style of play, because last season it was all this sort of back and forth. And I think they're actually working better, and you could see that dynamic come through in the Las Vegas game, and also in the final matches of last season. And also they got Joey Manu, and he's honestly annoyingly good. And I often worry about Manly too, because they do rely on 1 or 2 players to do all of the work in that side, and they're quite susceptible to injury. So I guess my confidence is more for Roosters than for Manly for this game.
I think Manly, you're right, they do rely on a few, whereas the Roosters, now you can see the other players around them stepping up, so which is what they needed, because for the last few seasons it's just been like Tedesco and Manu, Joey Manu. But I totally agree with what you said. I don't know. I just have a hunch that Manly will just get like a field goal or something, just because he loves a field goal, and he's very good in those pressure situations. So I feel like maybe it will come to that. Maybe just a penalty or a field goal. Mr. D.
I wondered whether JWH coming back, he has sort of that aggression as well, whether he's going to get, do something that's going to turn into him being sent off or bend or whatever. And so his team have to sort of front up with, 1 man short, and that's when Manly will probably put the tries on them. So possibility.
Yeah. Sab, you can always count on Sab to score some tries as well. And I think how many he scored quite a lot last. I think he had he's got like the record or something for in one season at home in the home ground. I think he did last year. So I don't rate him that much, to be honest, as a winger, but he is very fast, and I don't know. I think it'll be close though. Yeah, for sure.
I've picked a 1-12 margin there for the Seals. Wouldn't be surprised if the Roosters won, but just the way the tipping's going, you wouldn't be surprised if there's a few upsets this round, really. So who knows? Who absolutely knows with some of these games this week? But the Sunday game's the final. This is the last game actually to end the round. The Titans have got the bye this week, so we don't see them in action. I think it'd be a good thing, because last week they were shocking. But the Dolphins, speaking of shocking, last week the Dolphins, they weren't great either, and they're taking on a pretty impressive Dragons team that won last week on the Gold Coast against the Titans. This game has been played at KO Stadium, so that's in Redcliffe. This is another game which I don't know really who to go with. This was very difficult to call. I've actually gone with the Dolphins, but I'm not really confident because the Dragons were very good last week. So I've gone with the home team. I feel like the Dolphins could bounce back. What do you reckon? This game, you found this tricky, really tricky. This could be a flip of a coin. It could go your way.
I think I ended up going with the Dragons just because the Dolphins just didn't impress me at all. Like, I feel like some teams are going to step up from last week. Like, I think Warriors and the Knights, the 2 teams that will step up from last week. But I just can't see that happening with the Dolphins. They're so atrocious. Any reason why they didn't play at their stadium? Like, why are they playing in Suncorp? Like, they played Suncorp last week, and then now they're playing in Redcliffe. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the goals there.
It's probably got something to do with sharing the stadium with like the other codes that use Lang Park.
Yeah, it's a shame because I feel like you need to, like, it's their second season. Like, you want to create a proper home ground for the team. I don't know. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I feel like So I don't know. They're chopping and changing what stadium they play in, and but no, I just went with the Dragons just because the Dolphins were so bad. So I just can't see them winning this week.
I've got a soft spot for the Dolphins. and like, my heart says to go for them, but my brain tells me that based on the performance from the Dragons last week, and now that they've got, Dragons got a new coach, Bennett's been there a while. In fact, he's actually made a couple of changes to positions of players within the lineup for this weekend. I think that's probably going to, sort of upset the equilibrium a little bit, and the team will just have to recalibrate. But in terms of the Dragons, they're pretty much fielding mostly the same side for this, because they just want to capitalize on, obviously something's working, let's keep going. Their speed was great, and I have a feeling that when they go north, they'll be able to, I think, get the win, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as big a margin as perhaps others thought it would be or think it will be, because of how the Dolphins had performed in the previous round. But yeah, I think it should be a good match. Although, I tell you, when Dragons go north, they don't often do very well. And the Dolphins are quite used to those conditions. So, I'm prepared for an upset as well.
Yeah. 50-50,
Yep. Yeah. So, I think it's been great having you both on. Better let you guys go now. So, appreciate you for coming on, Lani and Yanni as well. It's great to have both of you on the channel for the very first time. I'm sure we'll maybe get you on, guys, get you both on again soon. But where can they find you? And thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. It was really nice talking to you both.
Yeah, great. It's actually been wonderful to connect with some Warriors fans without, without having like all these Sydney supporters, coming out and always negging the Warriors. But you know what? Up the wires. I really want them to have a great season. Yeah. And thanks, Christian.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So thanks again for coming on. We'll see if we can. I might stay on for a few more minutes to see if we can get a few more other people on. I saw we had someone try and come on before, but I didn't really want to interrupt both of these who's chatting. So see if he's actually still around. But thanks Yanni, thanks Lani. Again, sure we'll interact on the X and as well. So cheers for coming on.
Yeah,
thanks
thank
guys.
you.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks for that.
Bye.
See ya. So there we go. We've got Yanni and Lani. Thanks for both of them for coming on. So we'll actually just put up the link. If you guys want to come on, feel free to do so. Come on, have a chat with me. The link is in the chat there. And just like before, if you want to come on, click on that link, and we'll be keen to have you guys on. So I'll give it a few more minutes. For anyone who's interested in coming on. All you've got to do is click on that link there in the chat on the screen. Click on that link, and you can come on, have a chat, talk about the Warriors game this week against the Storm. Maybe have a little bit of a chat around the NRL this weekend. Just click on that link, and you can come on, have your say with me. Look, if you don't want your camera on, you can have your audio on, and have a chat. The link is in the chat, so feel free to do so if you would like to. We've got JD here, so if JD wants to come on, feel free to come on, JD. We've got a few others in this chat as well. We've got Interwebby, we've got Greg. Greg saying thanks. Good night, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Cheers, Greg. Thanks for watching. And Mike as well, who's from Twitter X. Good to see you here, Mike P. as well. So if you guys got a question for me, feel free to send it through now. If you want to send in a question, do a little bit of a Q&A before I head off. So got a question here from Interwebby. Oh, a comment here from Interwebby actually. He says, reckon we'll look as fit as last year or underdone. Other teams looking fitter this year. So he's look, I just feel like it's first game jitters. Obviously we started well last week, and then our attack looked just flattened off. With Egan coming off, and that really affected our attack in general. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can show a bit more in our attack this week. Defensively, I thought we struggled a couple of times too, but look, I feel like I wouldn't say we're underdone. We were underdone in the way of our game plan, but we're definitely, I wouldn't say we're unfit for the first game. So definitely I felt like first game jitters can happen. That's probably the reason why we didn't really do what we needed to do against the Sharks in that second half. So that's my reply to you, Interwebby there. So yeah, so guys, I think well, we'll see. I'll just give a few more minutes for anyone else who'd like to come on. The link is in the chat there. So we've got. I thought we had a few. We had someone else here before, but I think he was going to come on, but he left. So if he's still around, feel free to come on now. So link is in the chat there if you want to click on that link, and yeah, I'll add you into the stream so we can have a chat. Like I said, if you don't want your audio camera on, if you're shy, just have your audio on. You can just have your audio on. So yeah, so feel free to, if you want to come on, just click on that link. But I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we'll wrap it up if there's no one else that wants to come on. So, Fair, did anyone catch the New South Wales Cup game? Any standouts? I saw the highlights. I didn't see the game live because, unfortunately, the game was not shown here in Australia. So, unfortunately, I only saw the highlights. And what I saw of the highlights, I thought the likes of Tamari Martin, Shino Harris-Tavita had standout games. So, they were probably the players that really stood out for me, really, if you want to know my reply to that. But, yeah, just a shame that game wasn't shown on TV, Foxtel or KO. Shame it wasn't live streamed, but yes, for some reason New South Wales Rugby League, they just don't want to show all the games. So I don't know why. Don't know why. But for the viewers in New Zealand who were able to watch it, you'd be glad because it was a good game from what I've heard. So yeah, Cups team is really stacked this week. And this week they've got a very stacked team as well for their game up against the North Sydney Bears down there in Pukekohe this week. So if you're in Pukekohe, Sunday, make sure you get on down there and cheer on the Cup side as they take on the North Sydney Bears. And I believe the SG Ball Cup team are also playing as well. So a shout out to those teams. Harold Maths, Jersey Clee, they're all playing this week. So great to see that our few teams are in action this weekend. So, yeah, I think I'm going to pretty much wrap this up now. I think we've gone for an hour and 16, 17 minutes. So I think we'll wrap it up. Yeah, so for anyone who wants to come on the show, if anyone wants to come on the show, you can always come on the show. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a content creator. You know, you can just be a fan in general. All you've got to do is let me know if you want to come on, and I will send you the link to jump on to the show. And I'll put a link in the chat as well. So if you want to jump on, feel free to do so. But Janet's saying here, was at the game really good, and Chanel played an amazing game. Yeah, he did, for sure. He did. So Lani is saying, thanks for the opportunity, Christian. Great to have banter about the Waz and to meet Yanni too up the Waz. No worries, Lani. It's great to have you on. I'm sure we'll get you on again soon. I really do appreciate your time to come on and chat all things Warriors with me. And we also shout out again to Yanni as well. Big fan on the Twitter, on the X community. So it's great to have her on as well. I think that's going to do it, everyone. I think that's going to do it. Make sure you like the live stream, everyone. If you haven't done so already, click the thumbs up button. Please make sure you like the video, like the live stream. It really all helps the channel, and it also helps the algorithm as well. Make sure you subscribe if you're new and you haven't done so already. If you're a new viewer and you're just watching this and you're just tuned in, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 3K by the end of the year. So goal is to get to 3K subscribers by the end of the year. Don't forget to share this live stream around, share the video around. And yeah, will we see if we might be back next week for another fan call-in show if we can get a few people on the channel, if we can organise and suss them out. But enjoy the footy this week. Enjoy the Warriors game on Saturday night. For those of you who haven't seen already, there is a preview video already up on the YouTube channel. I've already done my preview for the Warriors Melbourne Storm game. Please go and check that out if you haven't done so already. I've also done an NRL tips live stream with NFA from Australia, another content creator, so go and check that out. We have talked about the games this week, and I'm sure there'll be more videos and live streams coming up over the next couple of days. But cheers, everyone. Have a good one. Have a good night for everyone in New Zealand. Also, thanks for watching. And yeah, up the Waz, Yanni. That's right, up the Waz for sure. Looking forward to the game against the Storm this week. So have a good one, everyone. And yeah, good night. Cheers.